Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is 11 o'clock on the hour, and great to be here with Matt Caneen and myself, Mark Montfort. We're both from Decision Inc. I'm a client partner. Recently joined the team. It's been an amazing couple of weeks being back here. I used to work here before, but more about my journey later on. But Matt, tell me a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm the practice lead for data management and business intelligence here at Decision Inc. Australia. I've been here for 2.5 years. Prior to that, had my own business where I was in business intelligence primarily and ran my own show. So, yeah, look, great team we've got here. Really looking forward to talking about one of our favourite topics today, which is the emergence of Power BI.
Perfect. So look, what we can see here, we've called it "We've Got the Power," and you know that is what it's all about. There's a lot of things that you can do with Power BI, and we're going to take you through some of that today. You might be sophisticated, or you might just be getting started, but we have something really interesting here for you. So let's click on the slides here. So as you can see, we are bringing power to your BI. BI being business intelligence or data analytics, whatever it is that people refer to it as. And what are we seeing on screen here, Matt?
Yeah, well, so a little bit about Decision Inc. So we put our mugs in the middle there, which is interesting. But over on the right-hand side, it just shows sort of what geographies we operate in. So certainly in Australia here, we've got a very large presence in South Africa and also out of London. So we've got the globe pretty well covered. Up the top, the KPIs there, the number of clients and the service offerings and the technologies that we bring to bear. What's going on with those little fish though?
So Power BI, it doesn't just have cool, funky data analytics visuals to do with data. Sometimes you can do some other types of analytics, and maybe you want to count some fish, or maybe you want to show the boss that, look, I'm just out to lunch today, I've gone fishing.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's a bit of fun stuff in this one too. So, that's something to check out as well. But, in terms of what we're going to do in the meeting, some of the more serious parts. So yeah, a bit about ourselves. We're going to talk to you guys about some quick insights. We're going to talk about some personalized visuals in Power BI. We'll talk about smart narratives as well. What else, Matt?
Yeah, Power BI on mobile, which is really exciting. The self-service business intelligence tools that are part of Power BI, and then finish up with some business templates, so some accelerators that you can use to get you going pretty quickly, for yourself in your organisation.
Perfect. And if we look at Decision Inc., like what we can see on screen here, so we're a multinational. We do a lot of stuff in terms of other geographies, and we leverage that. The key thing is that there are things that we share with our partners in South Africa and the UK. But likewise, we get a lot of learnings from them from different industries. So it's a really good, to be part of this global kind of organisation. And some of the practices that we have, we've got data and robotic process automation, or RPA. What else do we do, Matt?
Yeah, there's a digital arm. We're in ERP, CRM, financial planning and analytics, and managed services. So we've got a really broad spectrum of services that we offer here at Decision Inc.
Yeah, perfect. And what you guys might notice is that while we're going through this, we're actually in Power BI as we're doing this. We're not using PowerPoint, although we've used PowerPoint to create this. So there's really cool ways that you can bring your presentation, what you'd normally just do in PowerPoint, and the analytics that we'll see at the end here. You can do all of that in the one area, so it's really interesting. But why don't we jump to Power BI and the story about its growth? I mean, I've seen it as a very early adopter be quite exponential, mainly because a lot of customers have just access to this as part of Office 365. But what do you think, Matt? What else are you seeing around the growth?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal, and as the data guys that we are, we like to show the numbers. So 20 petabytes plus of data ingested into Power BI every month is just extraordinary. 30 million reports and dashboards hosted in the Power BI as a service, and in terms of queries per hour, 12 million plus. So it's really gone global. It's global phenomenon. Massive growth at 600% in large deployments. So it's serious. And Microsoft have had a few goes at doing business intelligence, and not necessarily all of those first ones did they do it right, but they've certainly got it right with Power BI, and these numbers just call that out.
It's a great showcase, and it's really exciting to see the growth of these opportunities, and we'll continue to see more. So Power BI, would not be anything had it not been for the great work by review agencies like Gartner and Forrester. Gartner with their Magic Quadrant, Forrester with their Wave, but they rate Power BI versus these other tools, and it's been quite an evolution over the last 2 years. What do you think about this?
Yeah, certainly, as you say, Mark, the last 2 years has really seen Microsoft hit the lead, and in previous versions of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, it wasn't necessarily in the lead, but it's taken over. What all the features that they're working on, that they're integrating, they're really adventurous monthly release cycle, that they're bringing out new features and functions all the time. They're investing very, very heavily in this product, and it's bearing fruit, and to be the leader in both of these two things is a testament to that. So no, they've certainly gone past most of the opposition these days.
Yeah, I mean, when I moved over from other tools that I was using to using a lot more Power BI, it was something that you just see, okay, there's missing features, but they keep on adding to it. They catch up and they overtake. So it's been quite interesting. But another thing that we find quite interesting is just what you're going to be able to do around modernising your analytics. And when we talk about modernising, it's quite funny that you see some places still use a lot of Excel, or advanced Excel, right? They're not doing much more than that. But modernising, how do we bring them into the modern age? Like, so what do you think about like modernising your data analytics? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, certainly, Power BI. One of the great things is it is an enterprise grade solution now. And some may have argued in the past that it wasn't. If you're just on desktop, it's not necessarily. We'll go through all the variations of what you can have, later in the presentation. But this really allows you to unify it together and set for self-service across the organisation. So that, rather than having little pockets, we can bring it into the one place, and I think that's a really important part. And how does it do it? It does it by getting insights to you quicker. So just faster, actionable insights. So reducing a lot of the time where you've got to wrangle your data and spend time getting answers rather than just prepping your data. Look, it's, you still need to get your data prepped.
Of course.
As we say, we're geniuses, we're not magicians. So we still need to prep the data. That hasn't gone away, but there are tools again that make that much easier today. And it allows everyone the ability to access it from anywhere. And I think that's the thing. Certainly we'll show some mobility later on. But, importantly, customers say, do I still need to do a data warehouse? What's happening with that? Yes, those things still need to be in play. You need to make sure that your data is secure, it's reliable, it's governed, and it's well managed. So those things haven't gone away. But the ability to do that now with the tools in the Microsoft suite is very advanced. And then to take it into Power BI and do your analytics again is so much easier than it's been in the past.
I agree. It's pretty amazing. But I don't know if you guys know this, but like there's that saying around like magic and technology, and like something, if it's really powerful in terms of technology, it's not far off from looking like magic. And if you do your technology well, it could be pretty magic. And talking about what Microsoft are doing, they keep adding more and more and more. Like recently there was announced this data cataloging feature. We're not going to go through it here, but it's almost like every week there's always something new.
That's right. It came out the other week, so it's amazing. And all of the things you look in a modern data platform as an overall platform, they've got a solution to that, and we'll see that as we go through some of these these presentations.
So why don't we take a look at what Power BI looks like? Well, this is it. It's looking pretty amazing there. There's a really cool visual, but very high level. Obviously, what's underneath the hood is important. We talk about the different ways that you can use Power BI. You might have sources that are on premise. You might have sources that are up in the cloud. But you can access both of those. And initially, you're probably going to start off with using Power BI desktop that you can download for free to curate, develop reports and do dashboards. But what else can you do? What would you do next?
Yeah, the key then I think is to share. You want to collaborate, and so that's when you push it up to the cloud. Again, we'll go through all those offerings a little bit later, but it's about sharing. So you get that up in the cloud, people can come in from wherever they are, access it, on their laptops, desktops, notebooks, mobile phones, all accessible and available. So that's quite key, I think, to the collaboration component of Power BI.
That's pretty powerful. And not just that, but in Power BI, we talk about the different types of things it can do. So they categorize these things into different service offerings. So we'll talk about these now, but why don't we start off with the easiest one, right? Desktop.
Desktop,
Talk about that.
Absolutely. Look, if you go to powerbi.microsoft.com or to your Microsoft Office store, you can download it for free and you can get going today. There's plenty of instructional, videos on how to get started.
Yeah.
There's plenty of YouTube videos and the like, and so you can get going today. You can connect to the data wherever that might be that on your local machine, be that in the cloud, as Mark suggested. Build your dashboards and get started with your analytics. But the key to Power BI Desktop is, you need it for your development, but it's not a collaboration tool.
Exactly, yeah.
It's what I call a personal productivity tool, a bit like Excel on steroids.
That's a good analogy, and it really is. Like, if you are going from Excel, staying within the same kind of family, moving up to Power BI is pretty much a no-brainer, right? But if you are going to collaborate, what is next? Where do you go through from there?
Yeah, so they're moving to the right in the slide that you see is Power BI Pro, and so what this is, it allows you to collaborate. It allows you to push to the cloud, as we mentioned previously, and allow everybody to come in and access that. So that's when the power really grows. If you are under that model, everyone who wants to be able to see your visualization or your dashboard that you've created needs to have a Power BI Pro license. So I think they're about $13 Australian per month, which is great and gets you up and running. But there are a few limitations around that. And as we move, further to Power BI Premium, so we skip the third one, which is sort of new, and we go all the way to the right. The difference here is that Pro is shared cloud capacity. So you're sharing with other organizations. Once you go to Power BI Premium, it's dedicated cloud infrastructure for you and your organization only. And that's quite important. If you've got large volumes of data, anything over a gigabyte, you're going to need to go to Premium. And if you've got, roughly the numbers work out, if you've got 450 or more users, then it definitely makes sense to go to Power BI Premium, because you're not paying per user. It's only the developers that will need the Pro license, and all of your consumers, as many as you like, can just come in and use it because you're paying under a different payment scheme rather than per user.
I guess it depends on your context, the size of your organization, how you're going to use analytics, how many users, how big the files are. But I guess if people want to understand that, they can talk to us.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah, and as we just understand, exactly those things, and having a plan, you may move from one to the other. That's the other thing. You can always grow and scale with it, and that's one of the advantages of cloud. Is that scalability. And then the new offering that sits in the middle between Premium and Pro, it's dedicated cloud storage, but you're paying per user.
Wow.
So you may have large data sets, and this will happen a lot in the organisations, and certainly in Australian organisations, where most of us would be probably small to medium enterprises. We've got large data sets, absolutely, because we've got 7 or 8 years worth of data we want to analyse, but we might only have 150 users. So this one will actually suit that model going forward. So it's very good for the Australian market, this one.
Perfect. Well, that's a nice little run through of the different services that we have in Power BI. Let's jump across to Azure Analytics, and there's a couple of things going on this page, but the various products that sit within the stack. I guess the question here for our lovely audience is to understand, do I need all of these components if I'm going to get going with my analytics environment and just get started? Do I need all this?
No, you don't need to start with everything, far from it, and it is a journey, and we have a slide coming up that sort of shows the progression of your maturity through your data and analytics, journey itself. But what this does show is that Microsoft is now so well set up in Azure to have all of these components available that there really isn't anything in a modern data platform that it's missing. Right, we've got IoT components here. We've got live streaming with Kafka, Data Factory and Databricks that do some prepping work for you. We've got all the storage that underpins it, and then moving to Synapse, which is only a recent sort of addition, but really exciting in terms of its data warehouse automation capability. Databricks, as I said, and then out to Power BI. But if you want to just start small, you need to be able to store your data, to move data and analyse your data. So you might just be able to do that with a few of these components, as opposed to having to go all in.
And I think the key thing with this is that we're experts at doing a lot of this kind of stuff, whether it's here or overseas. We leverage the community that we've got here in our relationship with Microsoft, but I've started seeing even customers dabbling in things. You know, some are getting into Databricks, and some of you out there might not know what Databricks is. Talk to us, you know, so ask us in the questions, we can go through that kind of stuff. But yeah, you know, this is the kind of stuff that we need to help the community with. So it's great to be able to show this kind of stuff. There's another concept that is of interest, I think, and that is around the modern data estate. What is that? What does this look like?
Yeah, that's really just talking about all the components of the estate. And so on the left-hand side, we've got all our files. None of that's changed. We need the data, but then it needs to be moved in, so we need to ingest it and prepare it. So whether that's Data Factory or Databricks, yeah, you may have your own ETL tools that you've used in the past, and they still are very valid. You know, people have been using SSIS and SSRS forever. Right? These are just the next versions of those and more advanced. We can store things in the lake, or we can move it into the warehouse. Again, that storage is really important. We still need to get that right and make sure it's well prepped and ready for your visualization tool, Power BI. So you want to be doing as much of the data modeling back in the model and serve section as we see here, right, rather than doing that in Power BI. It can do it, but it's just not as efficient.
Yeah, I've even built some Power BI things where I hit that threshold where it's like there's so much data going in there that the app does, you know, you need to do some more engineering, but that was with so much information. It can handle a lot on its own, but as you start to grow the enterprise, you need some more of these components. But back to our point earlier, you really don't need all that much to get started. You can get started with Power BI itself and scale up from there. And if you need help on how to scale up, that's what we're here for, right? So now another really interesting thing is where Power BI sits, not just amongst its services, right, but across what they call the Power Platform. And that's made up of three key things, being Flow, Power Apps, and Power BI. And so we've spoken about Power BI. We'll show a lot of Power BI, right, in this talk, and we'll show more about flows and Power Apps and some other talks to do with Microsoft here. But Power BI being the visual kind of layer. If you're going to look at Flow, you know, that's more about moving data from A to B, triggering events. So that's really interesting. You know, how do you get these apps from Microsoft to actually not just wait for a user to have something happen, but you can put some smarts in there, right? And you can make it do things based on rules that you create. And then how do you action that? So Power Apps is taking that ability to act on the data that you've got when there's been analysis that's come out of it. So it's almost like taking, you know, the data exhaust and actually doing something with it. So I don't know about you, but like we have probably seen many a time where the BI tools just sit there and you need humans to take that action, but yet you've got technology that could do some of that work for you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, one of the things we always ask is if I give you that report and you're able to analyse that data, my next question to you is, what are you going to do? What action are you going to take having got that answer? And if it's, I don't know, then maybe there's no need for us to build you that dashboard. But there will be, and you need to move to actionable insights, not just insights, to take an action. And so some of that can be done by Flow and Power Apps. And, you know, for instance, you could be, you know, if you've got a supplier and your stock level goes below a certain threshold, that might trigger an email to the supplier saying we need more stock. That can all be automated. That doesn't need a human to sit there and wait for that. So they're the things where we really can embed that into the organisation and start to get efficient so that the humans can do the high level stuff, which is the real value to any organisation.
And I guess that, you know, they've got this in this circular kind of diagram because it does repeat. You use Flow to get these automated responses, use Power Apps to act on that, use Power BI to visualize it, and then the data coming out of Power BI goes back into Flow, and it is this nice kind of circular motion. But, you know, what do you do with your free time? Imagine that you didn't have to put up with some of the BAU, the business as usual tasks that you have to do. What are all these kind of cool projects that you can add value to? It helps you personally, but it helps your business. So this is, you know, what we're trying to help out with.
The interesting thing about these two things, Mark, is or this whole process is it's pretty much low code. So anybody can get into it. You don't have to be the hardcore tech to get into this. Even in our decisioning office here in Sydney, Jen, who runs the office and basically runs the whole show, to be honest, she runs the whole
Jen.
The the whole company. But she's written power apps that have sat over the top of some things when we're putting in our skills matrix globally, and it's unbelievable what she's been able to develop. So, but customize, you always have that ability to customize. So the tech's in the room, don't worry, we're not getting replaced. We're always going to be able to have our hands on the tiller, but it'll just help other people get involved as well.
Exactly, everyone's leveling up. That's great. So Power BI, the data journey. So we'll wait for that slide to come up. There we go. So some people might have seen this, you know, this movement. It's not just Power BI. This is not exclusive to them. It's across the whole gamut of data analytics, whatever tool it is. A lot of people have kind of been stuck in this area of just being descriptive analytics. What happened in the past? It's already been done. You know, some are moving to why it happened, going deeper into the analysis. And that's great, and you can use all of this kind of stuff, what we classify as like hindsight, but where do you go to from there?
Yeah, well, you need to move to foresight. So rather than looking in the rearview mirror, let's look ahead. It's like driving a car. We've got to predict things that are going in front of us. Occasionally we look in the rearview mirror, but we need to be looking ahead. And that's where we move into the likes of predictive and predictive analytics. And that can be embedded nicely within Power BI. And then to prescriptive. So how can we make it happen? Right, getting really in front of the game there. And there are some other services there in the Azure stack, Azure ML, which is the machine learning or AI component within the platform, which is you know, which is exciting and can be embedded into your Power BI apps as well.
You know, the thing is, like, people think that, oh, it's so far ahead, or everyone else is talking about AI. I've got my own personal opinions about what's real and what's not, but the key thing is if you get started, it would be great for, you know, people to, you know, see how you get started, and basically moving into those areas. Like, we can help you on that journey. So we just got a question here that the text is a bit hard to kind of read. So look, if that's the case, we are going to share these slides out, but it could be, you know, for various kind of reasons there. But actually, if I move this, there we go. Hopefully that's a bit clearer there. So, you know, hopefully we can see that. But if it's not, we are going to send the slides out. So yeah, rest assured you'll be able to take a look at this, and there'll be a recording too. So, but let me just go back to here. And one of the final parts before we start getting into the demos, exciting logo changes. What's that first one look like to you? I know what it looks like to me.
Yeah, we've talked about this, you know, so this is a bit of fun really. You know, we called it a George Foreman griller. You know, I think they got stuck in the barbecuing section for too long. The guys there. So, yeah, barbecues are us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then moved on to a bit more of a 3D version of that. And then what do you think the new ones looks like there, Mark?
Steps.
Yeah.
Perhaps steps to success.
Well, certainly on the way up.
Yeah.
As we get out of this year that is 2020 and start moving forward again, that might be our way up.
I think it is, and I think, you know, what we can do and what we can show you here, hopefully, whether you use us to get started or you get started on your own and then you need our help later on, point is get started, really.
Yeah, absolutely the key. Everything starts with a step, so take that first step, get in.
If you've got Office 365, which most people use, you've got Power BI. If you're using Excel, you've got Power BI. Just need to get IT to install it, or if you've got admin permissions, get it installed. I want to see some installs today, right? But here we go to the fun part. So we'll just let this load. But what we're going to see here is actually Power BI running live, right? And what is going to be seen is basically one example of these apps. We've got a couple here at the top that we'll go through, but we'll jump back to this one. Having a bit of trouble with the internet. That's okay. Why don't we jump across to Sales Navigator just while we're here. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator, this is one of the business templates that we had been speaking about. And I guess the idea here is that what Microsoft has are these things called accelerators. Now, accelerator is, you know, by its very definition, a fast way to get started, right? You might not necessarily have the skills or the code to be able to create something like this from scratch, but it doesn't mean you have to miss out, does it?
Yeah, that's right. And it's just getting going. It's taken probably, you know, a few implementations of this, taking the best of the best and putting it there for you, but it's just a starting point. And that's the great thing about that. You're then starting from a full page, not a blank page. And if you're presenting this to, internal stakeholders, you can say, well, here's what I've been able to do out of the box. And then they can give you some feedback. I like this part, I don't like that. Can we change this one? It's much easier than going with a blank canvas and saying, what would you like?
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to get started. This way, you've started. So yeah, well, I love these accelerators. I think they're a great idea.
And as you can see, as Matt's been talking, I've been clicking around on the page here. You can see things change. So this accelerator in particular, if you look up Power BI, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you download the tool, you connect it up to your LinkedIn, and it's going to show you some details here. I wish this was my LinkedIn and I had this many connections. I'm a bit of a social media aficionado, you would say. But yeah, this is like a really great tool to look at things like whether you use your emails or search functionalities, or you can break down your SSIs for those familiar with LinkedIn. So and usage most importantly. But there are things that you can do out of the box. There's ones for Xero. There's other accelerators as well. There's even for CRMs like so for example, we use Dynamics here. So people can look at all these different things, which is really cool. So let's just see if this other page is loaded, and it has. Great. What before we jump into it, a lot of people throw so many things on a page and they just start to let's take a step back. What are we seeing here? If this was the first time someone looked at a dashboard of any sort, what are the kind of things that you would look at, Matt? The
key across the top, you can see there that there are the 3 KPI objects. So the total sold, the quantity, and the number of orders. I'm always a big fan of putting your big key metrics right at the top. Simple. We've used color coding here, so green is good, red's not so good. So standard, you can customize those exactly to your needs. Then across on the right hand side, we've decided to embed a few of the filters that are key filters into the actual app itself. So location, if you want to select the location, it will obviously filter all of the dashboard to that selection, and then some dates. So there are ways to be able to hone in on exactly what you want to look at in the dashboard. All the other filters, though, the ways you may want to slice and dice the information, are available on the far right side. You'll see there's a filter pane, and if you open that up, that gives you the other filters that are available.
Looks like we haven't got any filters attached to this one, but what you would do basically is you would attach which fields you want.
That's right.
You'll use the search by. They would see it here. So they've got those 2 options. Either you put everything on a page sheet, which is what people used to do, but when Power BI in one of their monthly updates added this side panel filter, it just opened up the doors for so much more you could do on the page, because you could put all the filters down the side here. It saved me a whole heap of time. So if you put other filters down the side here, that means that you can leave the main page for your main filters that relate to that, right?
Yeah, and it's a real good used to screen real estate. Otherwise, we were putting filters on a page, and we want to do our analytics on the page. We don't want to necessarily do our filtering. So it's been a good move. If we look at the other sort of charts here, all the typical charts that you expect. There's a line chart, there's a bar chart where we've got 2 measures over a particular dimension. There's a pie chart. People will argue whether pies are good or not. I'll leave that for another day. And then an XY scatter with the bubble size relating to the number. So yeah, all the kind of charts that you would expect. And then over on the right hand side there.
What's this?
What's that one?
Well, it's what they call a smart narrative. So this is a new feature from Power BI. It allows you to write text that relies on the data. So I don't know if you guys are in the audience or Matt, I'm into sports, right? Yahoo Sports. A lot of those reports on matches and whatnot, they're generated from data, and it's a machine that's writing the report. It's writing what's happened in the match. And as you click around, so it's just thinking there, but the text changes based on what you have in the report. So that's one way of doing it. There is another way. So this is Microsoft tool on its own.
But it's a natural language thing as well, isn't it?
It is. It is, and it's part of the tool. It just comes as part of BI, Power BI. The other add-on features, there's a tool called Aria. We've got a business relationship with them. We've got a partnership, and that does a lot more smarts, and that works on various kind of tools, but it also has its own analytics engine. We're going to do more on Aria, NLG, natural language generation, in future talks, and we'll mention some of those later on. But you can do some basic stuff in terms of smart narratives, smart commentary, automated commentary in Power BI. But then there's all these add-ons that do even smarter stuff. So you can almost build a whole report. I'm looking at a project to do just that very thing with ARIA and, you know, using Power BI as well. So that basically is, you know, what's on this page here.
Yeah, there's a little question mark in that top right corner.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what happens when we click on that. So this is a bit of a feature that they call Q&A. What's going on here?
So it comes up with a couple of suggestions for you that you might be able to ask a question of the data. And so it gives you one, and it's now looking at the data and giving you an answer to that in a chart format.
So I could type in here, let's say bottom 5, you know, making some suggestions there. It's kind of like Google, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
You know, so we can click on one of those, or we can type our own. It'll come back with, it will tell you if it hasn't really, you know, seen what it is that you're trying to do. But yeah, you can start typing things in here. You know, it's smart enough to have some tables show up as you start doing these things. But the key is that you basically, to get to this stage, you need to name your data properly.
Yep.
So if you have funky names for your fields and they're not things that you can talk about, like here, total quantity, that's a great name. If it was QTY and, you know, users didn't know, that's going to be a bit harder. So you really need to name things. We've got some maps that it could show here as well. So, you know, there's things that you can do, but you just got to make sure with this kind of stuff that you name your fields well. Yep. So yeah, so that's that one there.
And then one of the other things that I found really interesting in recent times is being able to personalise your visualizations.
Okay.
So if we take, for example, here, we're looking at the pie chart. I hate pie charts, right? They don't work for me. I'm a Stephen Few fan, and he believes a circle is just not a good way to do this.
What do you want to change?
So I'd like to have that as a bar chart, hopefully a horizontal one.
Yep, let's do that. So it's just calculating there in the background. It's always funny with the demo gods, you know, playing with you at the time, but that will come up with a bar chart. It works in practice, but we're not really presenting on video at the same time as we're doing that. So it's always fun to do this kind of stuff. But yeah.
But the key to it, and I think everyone understand how it works, is any of those chart options that you can see on the screen there are available. And so you can customize it. But as a developer, I only develop that once. Yeah. I develop it and I make it available. There we go. It's come up now, and then individually you have those. So if I make a change on my version of that, that doesn't change for everybody else, right? It is just for me. So it's very clever that the way it sort of stores that as a localization for the way I'd like to look at my chart, and that happens a lot. I mean, how many times for those of us who have developed dashboards, when you go and present something and they say, "Man, I love that, but could you just give it to me by this?" Yeah, okay, and you've got to go back and do some extra work.
Takes your time, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, and here we won't need to do that. So sure, just click and choose your own adventure.
That's it.
I think it's a really great feature.
Oh, that's really good. So one of the next things that we thought would be really interesting is Power BI Mobile. So, you know, tell us about that. What do you think about Power BI Mobile, Matt? Yeah,
look, it's great, and I think the thing that is important about it is, from a developer point of view, again, you just develop once. And it works in both. So it's not as if you've got to go and do a separate lot of development, which in the past, having built, you know, mobile apps far too long ago, before we had smartphones, you know, you had to be specific about the device. You needed to know what device it was, the screen resolution, and the like. So there we go. We're just looking. It's taken the same app and it's presenting it through a mobile experience using HTML5. Out of the box.
And if you're going to download, you know, to want to use this, you download Power BI Mobile on Google App Store or iOS.
Yep.
You get it up there, and then you basically would connect to your instance, and you would see like what you're seeing on screen here. But when you develop this, there is a different layout for the web versus mobile, and I guess that's the key. Like you have the one app, you don't have to keep separate apps.
Yeah,
it's just all in the one. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the next one is, so this is one of my workspaces that we use for webinars. There's a whole heap of kind of demos in here. But one of the key things is that once you've got your data, you've done your modeling, you've done all this other work, whether it's just Power BI on its own or you're doing some other stuff, once you upload it to the web and you see this view, you can click on this thing called Quick Insights, and it is basically Power BI searching for these insights. You can click on View Insights there. I already had one open because I knew the demo gods were going to kind of hit me. They hit me in other areas, but not in this one. But this is what the results are of clicking Quick Insights on a report. And this is for video game sales. So what are we seeing here?
So it's going into your data and it's looking in the data and it's coming up with some suggestions.
Yeah.
So based on best practice, the data doesn't lie, right? It's what it is. So they know that there are dimensions, there are measures, and you're going to want to see those in charts like this. So it's done this for you. And the great thing is, if you like one of them, you just click on pin, right? And it's like Pinterest for BI. That's just added to your dashboard.
Yeah.
Right? How easy is that?
Super simple.
Yeah. So again, that concept of not starting with a blank page, but starting with a full page. But you can also tweak these if you don't quite like it and you want to change a dimension, or it might be saying it's an average of something.
So we've just got a question here. Can users be able to change the visual to share dashboards that are shared to them? Yeah, that's right, you can. So there's things that are shared with you, whatever the person has created that are the fields that are available in that model. You can change those visuals that we saw before to change, we changed that nice pie chart to a bar chart. But it doesn't have to just be the fields that are in there. You can make it more complex than that. You can make it a map. You can make it a line chart, but you can even add other fields to it. The options are there. So if we just go quickly back to that, and when you click on this button, I'm just going to go into the edit area, but I'm not going to go in and try to change that again. This visual can be personalized. Okay, so you know why? Because I am in the reading, the edit view. So if I go back to reading view when I did that, what you'd see is like a menu that comes down the side here, and you'll be able to see all of these different things. So I can see that for the axis, all of these things that are in the data model can be made available to you. So self-service really is a cinch with doing something like this.
Yeah, you're creating your own dashboard here based off
pretty much
off one others. So yeah, it's very powerful.
Now we showed, we were going to show at this point in time the business apps and stuff, the accelerators like Sales Navigator, but we've run through that. So why don't we skip ahead? Let's go to, whoops, that's not the right one. Let's go to streaming. Yeah. And so let's get this one to load. But you mentioned streaming before with Kafka, Matt, and there's other ways to kind of get streaming data. But what do you think about the streaming data? Like, do you see many organizations kind of using that? Is this something that you're starting to see come up a bit more?
Yeah, starting to see come up with the Internet of Things, I think, is ripe for streaming. That's really where streaming comes into its own. There's so many stock tickers you can see. There's one or two use cases for that, but there's not many. And in most organizations, if you're just looking at general business, business data, then streaming isn't appropriate. So I think it's really the Internet of Things that's probably the key thing. Here we've got stock that makes sense. You see how that changes over time. So you've got to ask yourself, how real is real time? Yeah. And that's certainly a key. But yeah, Kafka does allow that. And as you can see here, this is updating, live in front of us as we speak.
Often a question I'll get from people that I talk with that want to do some streaming stuff. Yeah, it is that question. Well, how real time is real time? Oh, we need it every 15 minutes. Well, it's not quite real time as what you're seeing on screen here. But then, with the stuff that you're seeing on screen, if you want this millisecond, every second kind of real time nature, like are you doing trading or something like that, you would probably have one engine that is doing like the visualization. You'd have another that actually collects the data so that you can do some analysis on that. So that's often a question that's asked, like, do I need to have both in the one app? No, you'd have separate, one to do the visuals, but another that's reading the data into some other kind of data warehouse, potentially using Synapse or some other analytics or Databricks and stuff to do further analysis on top of that and come up with some end of day reports. I came from a financial markets background, so this kind of stuff, I'd see this kind of stuff with other apps, but it's really cool to see it being done with Power BI, which is so flexible to do so much more. Yep. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the demos. Going back to some of the other things that we've mentioned throughout this, so we showed how things have kind of changed, how Power BI is so good. It's got like these monthly updates. it's right up there in terms of the ratings. There's this modern data estate. There's all these other tools around Power BI, so flows and Power Apps. I'm showing some demos here. What else do you think people that are watching should be aware of with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, just that it's ever changing. It moves really quickly, and it's difficult when you're doing your day job to keep up to date with all the latest things. It's just moving that quickly. And so that's where we've got a dedicated team who do this day in, day out, and that's our job, is to keep across all the latest and greatest. And so through webinars, through other LinkedIn presentations, through workshops, hands-on, or coming out and working with you as a partner, we're able to bring those things to you really quickly as they come to light. And that's because that's what our role is. So we'd love to be able to do that, with you, collaboratively, and as part of, an extension of your team. If that's what you like, we'd love to do that.
I've just got a question here from one of the guests talking about maps, and the question was, when you do maps, so what we see on the page here, do you have to put latitude and longitude? Is there a possibility of having showing locations without the latitude and longitude? So as I hover over a map here, what you're seeing on screen, and we're delving into some a little bit more in-depth details, but it says country and it says consultants there. Do you know that you can actually add to this tooltip? You can add other fields so that when you hover over that, it actually shows you further information. It doesn't have to show you by default latitude and longitude there. By design, if that's what you meant, if you were to design this, if the place names are done well enough and the Power BI visual is able to read what those place names are and understand it, you don't need latitude and longitude. But if you did need latitude and longitude for the certain type of map, there's multiple maps that Power BI has, and you need help to get the lat and longitude for that, we can help out, get you that information as well. But the key thing with this is that you can do these tooltips, these hover over points. It can either be text. Another thing we haven't shown here, but I think we'll show in subsequent, we'll talk about what's coming up next. But as I hover over these, I could actually have like a mini chart come up that relates to, in this case, Australia. It could be a mini chart that shows something. It could even be a mini chart that shows some real-time stuff. The way that you design in Power BI, and this is what I really loved about it, was that it had this flexibility. This is probably one of the first wow factors when I was playing with it, that I would have a bar chart that shows me snapshot of what's going on now, but I'd hover over one of those bars. Then it showed me a line chart with the history of it, sitting on some other page, hidden somewhere. But, just that power and flexibility, the ability for what you're going to be able to do to wow your team, your bosses, your colleagues is really powerful. But let's talk about what's next. So this is the first in our presentations. What are we going to talk about, in subsequent ones, Matt?
Yeah, there's lots of content. We could go a lot of ways. Ones that we're thinking of at the moment. We're happy to take suggestions as well on this one.
Yeah, write them down, guys.
Maybe we should run in one of those LinkedIn polls. But Python and R, we certainly see advanced analytics and machine learning, and embedding that into your Power BI, right? Because a lot of people who data scientists may have already done those things, and they're not lost. They can be embedded. They can be embedded through URL as well. Synapse analytics, that's new and it's quite exciting. It's really taking another big step, and so that will be, I think, a good topic of conversation for a future one of these.
Perfect. And we mentioned ARIA, so we'll do a session on that and just how that tool works and the apps that it comes out with in terms of doing descriptive analytics or time series analytics and correlations, but then also how you can customize that yourself using the Studio tools. So that's really cool. We'll also leverage the Azure Data Catalog. And there's quite a few other features in not just tips and tricks with Power BI, but CDS, Matt, for example.
Master data. Being able to manage your master data, that's really important to be able to do. If you're going to IT with any of these things, that's going to be question one from the security and governance team.
Of course.
They're going to want to know how that's being managed. So that should be a good topic as well.
Yeah, and it's been great to be able to talk to everyone in the room so far. We've had a good couple of questions come through. Some have asked to talk about these things offline, so we'll follow up with you guys. But if people want to know more, we've got a great marketing team pushing out content each week. Follow us on LinkedIn. Go to decisioninc.com.au and look at the blog that's there. Like, I publish stuff there. I've done a few things. Matt, you've done a few as well. And I guess they can follow us on LinkedIn if they want to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep,
Yeah.
they'll be able to find us.
I publish a lot on, on Power BI and using the tools. I just did a datathon yesterday using the power of Power BI to look at gender equality data for a Women in AI Foundation. And it's really amazing just how they asked me last minute and I was able to do something within an hour or two. And it's just amazing. You can see that on LinkedIn, but you can see so much more of what we're doing, and we're going to be really pushing into 2021. It's a really great time to be getting out of 2020.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Let's flip that calendar and get going.
We got to.
Yeah.
We got to. But guys, thanks very much. Oh, one question. Aria. So Aria is an add-on tool. We showed you here before the smart narratives that Power BI has. So these smart narratives are inbuilt within the tool. They've got some things that you can do, but there's some things in terms of creating automated commentary that you just can't do just within Power BI itself. But, 2 months ago, Power BI didn't even have this, but now they've got this, so they're starting to level up. But Aria is a much smarter tool that allows you to do a whole lot more. So imagine, right, you could be a reporting analyst. I used to be a CBA and do a whole lot of reporting where each week new data would come in. I'd have to look at each chart, copy and paste each chart into a Word template, write some commentary. How many times can I say the word excellent or rising, get my thesaurus out? Aria is a way for you to, have the machines just do that for you. So it's an add-on to Power BI. Power BI has some capability, but this is what they're calling smart narratives. It's in the realm of NLP, natural language processing, and NLG, the subset, natural language generation. So you're generating context and insights. So yeah, that's pretty good. And so another one, incorporating R into Power BI. So one of the topics you mentioned there, Matt, was Python and R.
Yep.
I've not done the R one, but there are plenty of examples for Python. I've used something called PyCaret. I think I'm pronouncing it correct, PyCaret. I'll do a session on that, but it's an add-on. You install Python, it's running in the background on your machine or your server. You can write Python code in the back end of Power BI, and it comes up with things. So I did an example that I'm going to show, which is on clustering and how to do some k-means or other types of, advanced statistical. I mean, for me, I'm not a data scientist by trade, but I had to Google quite a few of these things. I've done some funky stuff, but it's just amazing that it gives people that are, very sophisticated the ability to bring these things in. Or if they're just getting started, there are ways that you can read things online, and we'll share all of that. So
Absolutely.
a great question. So I think we've answered pretty much all. If you guys have further things that you want to ask us, please feel free. It doesn't have to just be in here. Watch the video. We'll share some of these things. There's a whole lot more that we're going to start sharing that we've already kind of been doing as well. And 2021 is going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. What we're going to do is finish up here, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.
Take care.